Welcome in to the Toyota Lounge for the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, powered by your Front Range Toyota dealerships. We got Megan, we got Eric, we got Rudo coming in to see you live on a Tuesday. We're talking about the Avolympics today for the most part, so it'll be fun. We'll get into some skills and the top 3 ranked Avs in those categories. But before we do, a little bit of NHL news today with the St. Louis Blues offer sheeting 2 of the Edmonton Oilers defenseman Philip Broberg for about $4.5 million. They'd have to give up a second-round pick, and then Dylan Holloway for just shy of $2.3 million. They'd have to give up a third-round pick for that one. You very rarely see offer sheets in general, but certainly it makes sense to me from St. Louis's side targeting a team like Edmonton, who is very cap-strapped. What do you two think of these 2 offer sheets, St. Louis towards Edmonton?
I can go first. I mean, that's you just said the big word. The big word is cash strapped, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Edmonton is just in a tough spot, and everyone knows that. And the problem is when you're in a tough spot like Edmonton is you actually fear those things. You do. Go back to when we got one for Ryan O'Reilly, and it wasn't that we were cash strapped. It's just that it was in a different era of the Avalanche. We were at the floor. We weren't at the ceiling, right? But you're scared that other teams are going to take advantage of it because you're struggling at the gate. The building was half empty, and so it's a little bit similar there. You know that they're in trouble with Draisaitl coming up. You know that they're in trouble with, they're top heavy. I mean, freaking frack, that's reality. So they probably knew this was coming somewhere, somehow. Now, the way St. Louis did it, I thought it was pretty creative, too. It's pretty, you put 2 instead of 1, and then, maybe they have to choose between one of the 2. Who knows what's going to happen with Kane and LTIR, right? They're going to have to do that now. I mean, that's, in order to maybe match one of those 2, obviously Kane's going to go to LTIR. But I like the way that St. Louis did their own work. It's part of the CBA. Do I like it? No, I was pissed off when we got one for Ryan O'Reilly, right? Obviously, it's not fun. It's not. Obviously, we talked about the Joe Sakic one back then, too. Obviously, I was a player then. But when you do, when those things happen, St. Louis meticulously did their thing. They're like, you know what? We're going to get a D that we like. Obviously, pay for, pretty hefty pay, right? I don't think Edmonton was willing to give that to Broberg. As good as he had, good playoffs, I don't think they're ready for that. And then Holloway, it's an easier one to match. You know what I mean? But again, if you go over $1, I mean, it's just right to the dollar. Did their homework. They know that the compensation is a second and a third, right? Whatever it is, it's not. Listen, it kind of sucks because those picks are NHL players. You don't know if the second or the third is going to become an NHL player, as we've seen the last few years with, let's say the Avs drafts, not bashing on the Avs drafts, but you don't know. You just don't know what's going to happen. Now, St. Louis has been preparing this. They went and got their – because in order to do an offer sheet, you have to have your own picks. And, they didn't have that. What was it, the second or whatever it was, the third, and they went back and got it with Pittsburgh, right? So, they've been preparing this for a little bit. And then, do I like it? No, I think you and me were talking off air a little bit. Not your favorite thing. It's not my favorite thing. Is it part of the CBA? Yes. Does it bring a little spice in the summer? Yes. Do I think they're going to match both? No. Do I think they're going to let both walk away? No. I think it's going to be 1-1, and I think they're going to keep the D and keep Holloway because it's an easier match, and then they'll have to move on from Holloway. From Broberg. That's just my 2 cents.
St. Louis has otherwise had a pretty quiet off season, so
True.
They needed to do something, and it does feel directly influenced by the news of Evander Kane going to LTIR, because when Edmonton added Skinner, it became a question of, okay, how are they going to balance this forward group? That's just too much money tied up in this one area of the roster. Evander Kane is going to need to be traded. And this becomes an interesting solution for Edmonton to hang on to Kane. They want to have their Kane and eat it too. And so it puts them in a vulnerable position. Eventually, Kane is going to get healthy, and Edmonton's going to have to make difficult decisions down the line. They just moved the field post out a bit. St. Louis saw an opportunity, and they're going to capitalize then on the vulnerable position of Edmonton in, by our account, appearing to hang on to Evander Kane. That is a pretty risky decision, and this is just one of the risks that I think comes with that.
Yep. From St. Louis' side, I said this off air, but I love the concept. St. Louis' defense is bad. They have an opportunity to potentially go out and get someone that might make their defense better. My problem with it is you're giving $4.5 million potentially to a guy who has 81 career NHL games. He's been a tweener the last 3 years. I know he had a decent playoff run with Edmonton this last season, but even that is 3 points in 20 games. Yes, I understand. You're probably more looking at the defensive side of the game when you get someone like Broberg, but the modern NHL requires a certain level of production even from your defensive D at this point. It'll be fine. It's only 2 years. I don't think St. Louis is about to flip themselves into a competitive window in the next 2 years anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But it does also feel like a pretty decent overpay, at least dollar value, for Broberg, which I guess is kind of how offer sheets work. You have to do that to get a team to consider moving on from a guy. But as both of you have said, I think this is very easy for Edmonton to sign the Holloway one and keep him, and then live without Broberg. So it is what it is.
I agree. And it you know, like if you're a St. Louis Blues fan, it's either, you're mad at their off season or at the draft, or, there was no, trades or whatever it was, or free agency signings. And maybe that was part of their plan all along. I mean, we don't know that. Or they swung and they missed and they didn't land anyone. Then they're like, oh, what do we do now? And then in their window right now of where they're at, which is, like you said, probably not competing for the Stanley Cup, this year or next year or whatever it is, but they're going to get some younger players and using the CBA to do so, which, again, I don't like, but it's part of it, and it's all good. We'll see what comes of it. Makes it fun for an August day, in the summer.
I don't even mind offer sheet conceptually. I don't mind that part of the CBA. I just think I don't know that this is the smartest players to target for St. Louis.
That's why, doesn't it almost feel punitive in some way? Like maybe St. Louis had been interested in Kane as a piece, and they're like, they're clearly not trading Kane, so now we're mad.
I'm just gonna take two of their guys.
And maybe that's just because I villainize St. Louis as a team that would be interested in a player like Kane, so I've just created a hockey drama.
I'm in. More hockey drama. Bring it to me. I need it.
Nothing better than a couple of years ago with Carolina and Montreal.
That was hilarious.
That was so funny. That was funny. That was like, oh, well, I'll do it to you then. And it did make sense. But whatever. It is what it is, right? So
it is what it is. Get into our actual meat and potatoes of our show today. The real Olympics is officially over. So we figured we'd have our own little Olympics with the Colorado Avalanche. We have 7 categories of hockey skills where we all picked our top 3 players for the bronze, silver, and gold in that skill category that we'll get into. We'll talk about, we'll discuss why, we'll discuss some of the people maybe we didn't pick too. So let's kick it off with the first category, which I went with for the first category of skating. And I don't think there's going to be any big surprises here, but the guy who did get a vote and just missed out on the podium, Megan, you went with Sam Girard as the third best skater on the Avs.
All right. There were some layers to each of these categories.
For sure.
For skating, the straight line skating, I don't want to start revealing some of the people who did make the podium, but there are players who beat out Girard by a hair in that category. But it was Girard's mobility specifically that I think had an edge over one of these players and their speed at north-south, that I wanted to give Girard a nod for not only his speed, but also his mobility.
For sure. When it comes to actual mechanics of skating, I certainly think Girard is better than our third place podium guy. So I totally understand where that's coming from, but
I'll add to it too that he didn't make the podium, but because he hasn't played a game with the Avs yet. But Shillington would be there in the top 3, 100% in my book.
Yep. So, podium might look a little bit different in a couple of months. But for now, the third place on the podium is Miles Wood. The second place is Cale Makar, and the first is Nathan MacKinnon. I think Wood is pretty straightforward. That's kind of the guy we are alluding to. He skate real fast. He goes run into stuff. Makes sense. The MacKinnon-Makar debate is interesting because Megan and I did have MacKinnon at number 1, but Eric, you had Makar at number 1.
Yeah, it's a little bit like what Megan just talked about, right, with Gerard. It's like, for me, it's the all-around, like the 10-2s that he does, the pivots, the backwards, the forward, overall skater. The guy freaking feels like he's got sneakers out there, and he's just like, walking. It's unreal. I mean, it's not, I always say it, and I'll say it again. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not right. I know he's worked hard at it in his life, absolutely. But there's some freaking talent there that you're born with. I mean, it's amazing. You can't be that much different than everybody else. You know what I mean? And it's not. Everybody works hard. You know what I mean? It's not a. It's just there's some special. He's got a tool. It's like a singer. You know what I mean? It's like Celine Dion. She's the voice, right? Best voice. I mean, this guy's like. It's just natural. It's natural. Like from left to right to backwards to, for whoever's older and on chat right now watching too is very similar to one of my teammates back then with the Avs, which was a forward, but I had never seen anything like this until I saw Cale. It was Valery Kaminsky. You know what I mean? Like it's just it's fluid. It's hard to explain. You can't teach that. But for me, that's why. I had Cale. Of course, I mean, if we're saying red line to red line, do I think Mac beats him? Probably, But I'll tell you who gives him a shot, too, is Oliver Shillington give him a shot, red line to red line.
Here's my thing with this one. And don't get me wrong, I love Cale Makar's skating. I think he does things that very, very, very few people can do along that blue line. But if you were to put in a going in blind, a random skating situation, Nathan MacKinnon's first 2 steps in his explosiveness plus his maximum top speed, I just don't know how you stop him. He's just too quick to get up to top speed, and his top speed is too fast. You watch what he does to NHL defenses where you watch defensemen sag 20 feet off their own blue line because they're like, oh, God, if I get any closer, he's just going to burn me. And not to take anything away from Cale, but to me, that just gives Nathan MacKinnon the edge as far as his ability to impact the game with his skating. So,
I've watched both Makar and MacKinnon split 2 skaters, but I expect that kind of footwork from Makar. It's MacKinnon who I think sneakily comes through with that as well from time to time.
Sure.
Because you see the explosive bursts off the rush, but there are things that he can do in traffic that I think get overlooked because of how quick he is off the rush.
Fair enough. He does certainly have more agility than you might think.
Yeah, Mac is a rocket ship. That's what he is. I mean, he gets, it's the closest thing, the best way to describe his skating ability is he's a rocket ship. I mean, he just gets launched, like that's just, and and everybody in their seats at Ball Arena just stands up. It's just, that's how it's powerful. We're splitting the atom right now.
I love Cale Makar, Celine Dion, Nathan MacKinnon, rocket ship.
Yeah.
Basically the same.
No, both of these are they're such high compliments.
Yeah. And Woody's the wrecking ball. Yeah, I mean, that's what he is, right?
For sure.
Miley Cyrus wrecking ball.
I think he'd like that.
I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, again, you know what? Hey, listen, we're talking Olympics, right? I mean, the Olympics, I was telling Rudo, I was like, you know what? Like, I had no idea in swimming that they had a 50-meter race. And I'm like, well, first of all, I could have content with that for Team Canada. I'm telling you, I'm fast. I just can't. I can't go after. That would have been my maximum length. And then, but you talk about Woody. Let's put everybody in there. I would freaking fill the Ball Arena and let's see Mac versus Woody versus Shillington versus whoever. Throw Footy in there. Bring an old guy in there from back then, and then just freaking blue line. I mean, no pucks. No offense to anybody, but no puck. Just straight down. That would be unreal. I'd pay for that.
Hey, let's have hockey races more often. I'm in. Until someone blows an ACL or
I don't
something.
know. Can we simulate it somehow? without actual injury.
Hey, look, that's kind of an idea, a little bit of taste there. We got 6 more categories to go. But before we get into those categories, if you want to compete for the best skater or any of these other categories, you got to make sure you're taking care of your health with UC Health. Make sure you get in on their new program, the Ready, Set, Co program, with Coach Prime as the Chief Motivational Officer. All UC Health is trying to do is get Colorado back to its rightful place as the healthiest state in the country. Coach Prime, joined by his other personas, Nutrition Prime, Exercise Prime, Sleep Prime, and Mindfulness Prime. Each Prime persona breaks down how to dive into each area of the Ready, Set, Co mindset. So join in today. Help Colorado become the healthiest state in the country. Go to uchealth.org/readysetco to join the challenge, or you can just click the link down in the description below. Once you've got yourself on the path to good health, make sure you're also enjoying yourself. You know, maybe you want to make the good health on some trails out there, because Colorado has a ton of great trails. To get yourself there, make sure you're putting yourself in a Toyota. You can go to any one of your Front Range Toyota stores to get yourself into 17 different all-wheel drive vehicles, 16 different hybrid vehicles. They've got trucks, they've got SUVs, they've got sedans. They've got a vehicle for everyone, and they are the official vehicle of DNVR. So make sure you're getting yourself out to your Toyotas at one of the Front Range Toyota stores, including AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Again, the official vehicle of the Colorado Avalanche and the official vehicle of DNVR. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, getting a little bit deeper into the Avolympics. Let's get this one out of the way. We'll go with shooting next, and there was absolutely zero dissension from anyone in the ranks of this one. We all had MacKinnon as the bronze, Makar as the silver, and Rantanen as the gold. I think Rantanen as the gold is pretty clear-cut. There's not a whole lot to say about that one. Pick a shot. Mikko's probably the best at it. He's got a great wrister. He's got a great one-timer. He's got a great backhand. Hard to argue much there. Where this gets interesting, I think, is Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar. With MacKinnon, if you're talking about pure shooting ability, raw ability to pick a corner, to put a puck in the back of the net, I don't think that Nathan MacKinnon is in the top 3. But he's such an unbelievably good volume shooter that he puts himself in that conversation anyway.
Yeah, and that's the word, volume. That's why I had him there. I always say it sometimes, God, I hate when, I hate that. I mean, wow, I can't use, I'm using the word hate. It's embarrassing that I'm using that, but I'd hate to be in frickin' Cale's shoes, you know what I mean? When he's on the power play at the top, then he's looking at the dog on the left there, all like gunned up, ready to go, and then he's got Mikko on his side, you know what I mean? It's like, oh God, which way do I go? You know, I mean, we always make fun that, okay, he'll give him a couple right there, and then Mac and Rantanen are so different. They're shooting so different, technique different. But you're right. Mac is volume. I think Mikko is accuracy. Best word to describe it. And then Cale, because he's on the podium, for me, it's his ability to get it through, right? I mean, it's just unreal. It's a knack. You got to remember, in the National Hockey League, the sticks are in the way all the time. Guys are so good with their sticks, and then shooting lanes are not there for D's because players are so good, right, at blocking shooting lanes. And this guy gets it through. You know, he went through a little funk this year. Remember, like 10, 15 games, it was like not going through, and everybody was like, God, what's going on with him, you know? Because it's that flagrant. That's how good he is. He gets his shots through. So that would be my 3 words to describe all 3 there.
Mikko Rantanen has, I think, variety in his shooting too, and coupled with the accuracy that Eric's talking about is what makes him such a threat. And for MacKinnon, it is the volume, and you know that we laugh sometimes at the success rate of the one-timer from the left circle, but you know that NHL opponents fear him anytime that he's in that position because it is a perceived threat no matter what, no matter the success, and it is because of the volume shooting. He's going to reset and get after it once again, sometimes doing the give and go with Jonathan Drouin just opposite him. So that's what makes that first line, however it shakes out, so potent next year too. And then for Makar, he's great at finding his lanes, and he has a decent shot speed. he's in, I believe, like the 83rd percentile for shot speed. And that's why I wanted to give Devon Toews a nod in this conversation. Also has maybe a more powerful shot than gets recognition. He doesn't necessarily belong on this podium, but I think between Toews and Makar, they both have pretty powerful shots. And for Makar, because he is so good at finding those lanes, it's what makes him such a threat as well.
As you can tell, I've left some of these categories intentionally a bit vague because I think it's fascinating to talk about this type of stuff. You could get it down to the granular level and be like, okay, Mikko's the most accurate shooter. Maybe Makar has the most powerful shot. MacKinnon shoots the most. Instead, put it all together into a shooting category. Let's see what people value most out of these things. Makar, I think, even takes it to another level, though, because even if you ignore his shot, what makes Makar's shot truly special is not the shooting ability, it's his ability to find those lanes that you talked about. He has this uncanny knack. Eric, you talk about it as getting shots through, and I think that almost sells it short because there are guys who do have the ability to kind of like thread a needle through three defensemen. Makar just opens up the sea, and he's not really getting a shot through anything. He's creating a lane for his shot to go through with his feet, his movement, with other parts of his game.
And that's why you just admitted on being wrong in the first category. Yeah, right there. That's why his ability to move like that and open seams like he does with those 10-2s on his feet, that's skating, makes him, you're right. No, I'm just kidding, but you're bang on. But again, it's about getting it through. And Ray Bourque was one of the best back then. I mean, Ray Bourque was amazing. And it's not such a cannon. Like, it's just getting it through. And then if you're purely talking about, like, all-star game, skills competition, like, hardest shot, I mean, you would have to put Schilly in there. You do. You know what I mean? And again, we would have to revert to our sprint competition, then the hardest shot competition. And I'm going to give a mention here to an ex-Av for a few games, more a Colorado Eagle. But Brad Hunt, without a doubt, would have gotten the hardest shot.
Backyard bombs.
That's a bomb. That's a bomb.
I'm here for it. He gone, though.
He gone, though.
I know.
On to our next category. By the way, our poll, 0% of people think Mikko Rantanen got the most medals.
I actually don't know how it shook out.
I don't either, actually.
I don't know.
I don't remember either, yeah.
I'm counting now, so.
We'll
Okay.
see. Tiff will let you know by the end of the show. Our third category is passing. Our podium had Casey Middlestat at 3, Jonathan Drouin at 2, and Mikko Rantanen at 1. I did have Cale Makar in my top 3 as well, as the guy who kind of quarterbacks that power play as well as distributes from the blue line. Particularly, I think, where Makar, and if you were going to pick any defenseman on this category, those stretch passes that the Avs love to run on their breakouts is where you would sneak them in to this
good
passing
shout-out.
ability. But in zone, I hate. It's part of me hates that Mikko is the number one shooter and the number one passer on this team because he just is that genuinely skilled. Go look up a clip of Mikko passing a puck from behind the net and just ogle at this ridiculousness of it. At any point in his career, he just throws a sauce pass through like 3 bodies to someone's stick. It's ridiculous. He's that good. He really is. And then you have Drouin and Middlestat, both guys that have had their careers as setup guys work out incredibly well. Drouin, I don't think surprises me, or from what I've read around, fandoms, I think Drouin, that's kind of the expectation. But you watch what Middlestat does, particularly in zone last year, and it's pretty darn impressive.
His ability to find Lehkonen
Yep.
more than once as a newer teammate was so impressive, and it shows there's that intuition, a hockey player's intuition, that not every, it's something that I imagine is difficult to teach, and players just have a good instinct for how to find their teammates, and I think that really showed in Middlestat being a newer player and getting adjusted to the habits of others. Similar for Drouin too. I think they're both so good at anticipating what others around them are going to be doing. And Mikko's good at both. Mikko is good at anticipating what others around him are doing and finding them.
Yep.
And putting himself in a position to be found. And that's what I think makes him so strong and come out atop this.
It's funny. those freaking chat comments just pop every time I'm about to say something. They pop in. You know what I mean? But Dan right there. I was gonna say, Tersh for me. Pierre Tersh was the most underrated passer in the history of the game, and Drouin reminds me of Tersh. The way he passes the puck. I'm not saying his overall game. I'm saying the way he finds guys, the way he finds guys back door, the way he finds guys through seams. And I tell you one thing, that is a great comparison, and I'm glad Dan brought that up there. But Mikko is so talented. You're right. I mean, he's a wizard. He is, and again, I'm using different words for AJ. What is it? Drouin is Picasso?
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare. Sorry, because same thing. AJ.
Writer, painter. What's the difference, really?
Same thing. But yeah, you're right. And then and I'm gonna give praises to Middlestat here, and that's where I'm so impressed by him. Again, I went from a doubter to a believer, and I think he's gonna blow this thing out of the water this year. But I'm gonna compare him to one of the all-time greatest passers in the history of the game, because it's not like they're doing it how Mac goes through and he's 100 miles an hour, then he dishes the puck or whatever it is, because it's Middlestat is more. I talked about it yesterday. He's in a phone booth and he's got 4 guys on him. And he still has the puck, and you're like, wow, this is the weirdest thing. You know what I mean? I'm gonna compare him to Adam Oates, and again, that is a compliment. That is a compliment, because Adam Oates is one of the greatest passers in the history of the game. But they have the ability to slow the game down a little bit, through traffic, and still hang on to the puck and make that play, even though you're watching on TV and you're like, man, pass the puck, but it's too late. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, it's not too late. Oh, maybe I should shut my mouth. You know what I mean? He's right. He's bang on. And that's talent, that's ability, and not everyone can do that. And Middlestat, for me, that's why he was in there.
Middlestat, particularly off the wall, I think he can get pucks off the wall and make those excellent passes. The Drouin and Mikko thing, I think you could even make an argument that Drouin has better vision than Mikko Rantanen. Drouin is the guy that really sees where that puck needs to go. He can put it in that puck-sized hole in a defense. Whereas with Mikko, he's just so talented that it's like, yeah, there's 3 sticks in that lane. I don't care. I'll just sauce it over them all and it'll land on your stick. It's fine. I'm just that good. So
Drouin does feel more intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. Mikko's swag.
Mikko,
swag.
For sure.
I wouldn't try it. Because I see 3 sticks and I'm like, not a chance. Not a chance. We're 4 minutes into the first, and I'm not going to sit the rest of the freaking game on the bench. You know what I mean? I'm not trying it. You know what I mean? But Mikko and swag. I'm doing it. I'm the man. You know what I mean? And I love that. I love that.
And it works often enough with him that you're like, well, all right, Mikko, I guess you just do that. It's fine. Go for it. I will say, it does help that certainly in Mikko and Drouin's case, they do get to pass to Nathan MacKinnon pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. So, there may be a little bit of teammates helping out a little bit on these guys' passing games, but is what it is. Middlestat got to work a little bit harder. Nothing against the second line guys, obviously. They're very good players, too, in Colorado. But Mac was the 50 goal scorer last year. We'll put it to you that way. We still got a bunch more. Middlestat
slimy.
Slimy? Oh, God.
Slimy.
I don't know. I think we're going to get into the slimy players in a little bit here.
Slippery.
Slippery, maybe the better word.
All right, the French came out of me. He's slippery.
I mean, slimy's fine too.
Yeah, I like slimy.
You call players nasty all the time. It's all good.
True.
All right, before we get into our next categories, we are brought to you by Bet365. Make sure you're putting your bets down. We just talked about passing. Would Mikko over or under 50 assists this year? I think it's pretty easy over, to be honest. Might be a bet you could do. Of course, you could bet on a ton of other stuff, too, like Cale Makar to win the Norris, Nathan MacKinnon to win the Conn Smythe. I actually don't think you can bet on that until the playoffs, but you would pick him to win another Hart. Why not? Do it with Bet365. When you do bet with Bet365, sign up with the DNVR 365 code. Bet $5 on anything. Get $150 in bonus bets. It's just free money to play around with. And, of course, you must be 21 or older, physically located in Colorado. Please gamble responsibly. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER today. Again, use that DNVR 365 code to sign up with Bet365. And once you got your bets in, make sure you're actually, making real money instead of just gambling. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Go get signed up with Indeed today, especially if you're looking to hire at multiple positions. Indeed has over 350 million global visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So make sure you're getting in with Indeed for any of your hiring needs. They've got you fully covered no matter what it is. Of course, listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to give your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. You need Indeed. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast, keeping the Olympics rolling. Right now, I think Rantanen and MacKinnon and Makar. Yeah, all tied with 2 medals each. But we're going to go a little bit of a different angle. Huh?
I got a question first before you go on to the next one. It's a stupid question. I talked to AJ last night. I asked him. He said it wasn't him that on the DNVR Twitter. Somebody put 2 days ago, like 59 days.
That's me.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Whitey?
I couldn't find a picture of White. I looked as hard as I could, so I had to go with Philippe Dupuis instead.
Listen, you're gonna be like, oh my God, he's full of shit, but I am not. I looked at it like too late, like a day late. Guess who I ran into at Starbucks 2 days ago?
You could have taken a
Go
picture.
with Brian White.
Yes, sir. That's
what are the
unbelievable.
chances? What are the chances?
What are the chances? I'm waiting for my coffee. I would have seen the tweet. I would have been like, "Oh my God," and taken a picture, and then send it to you and say, "Here you go. Here's one." I was dying. I called AJ last night. I'm like, "Did you put that tweet up?" He's like, "I don't think so. Why?" And then I was telling him, I was like, "Oh my God, I ran it. I mean, what are the odds? I ran into him. Crazy. Yeah, the Brian White. Like, yeah.
There you go.
I was there when he played. I think he played one game, right? Or
two.
I don't remember. Two
games,
I was there.
yeah.
I was there with him. Yeah. Anyway, move on.
Who doesn't Eric know? Absolutely nobody.
It's crazy.
Next category, we're going with hitting. This one had a couple of different options. Eric, you had Logan O'Connor, who didn't make the cut. I don't know. Can you convince me on this one? Because, I get what you're saying, but when it comes to actual hitting, it feels like O'Connor doesn't do that much of it.
Well, I mean, you know what? It's like I was trying to be different. I was trying to piss you off. I was trying to. But I mean, for me, there's a clear cut number one. Number two is it a clear cut too? Probably at the same one, right? And then I was just trying to say, for me, he's just physical. It's not so much. He just runs into. He's more like a nuisance than a hitter. You know what I mean? Like, if that's the right word. And then he's just in the way. But whatever. Maybe the wrong call there, but has to be physical in order to stay in the league. It has to be a nuisance. So, and obviously uses speed. So he could have been in there for skating too. So he was right there, borderline with me on that one.
Megan also had a Colton vote that missed the podium.
We're sleeping on Colton. Not only does he lead the team second in hits, also one among the greatest hits per 60. He's out there hitting.
Yeah, he runs into a lot of stuff. I don't know how physical the hits actually are.
They're counting his hits.
Depending on the building, that could be like a baby tap or it could be a huge hit.
It's a difference of Ross Colton 141, Miles Wood 107.
So
that's a lot of hits to get wrong.
It's a pretty big gap. Not going to lie. Unfortunately, just like the Olympics, judge sports are stupid, and sometimes the wrong people get the medals. We had Cale Makar in third, Miles Wood in second. Technically, they were tied. I gave Miles Wood second because that's what I did. Ha-ha.
That's what I did. Ha-ha.
And then I think everyone would agree Josh Manson, the number one hitter in Colorado, even if it's not necessarily volume. He's the guy who lays down the big hits for the Avs in the recent history, at very least. Wood is what kind of Eric described to me as Logan O'Connor, except for he actually runs into stuff harder than LOC does, because he'll just crash into anything and hurt himself if he has to. And then Makar, Eric, I know you talk about Makar's ability to hit all the time, so it's not going to come out super often, but when he decides to blow somebody up, he can.
He can because he can skate, right? You know what I mean? He puts himself in. It's an art to hit, but it's timing. You also got to do it the right way. You don't get penalized. You got to do it the right way where you don't put yourself out of position. You got to do it the same way you don't get hurt yourself, right? You know, so I think technically he's probably the best hitter, because of all the attributes to what makes a hit. And I think Josh is just he's the biggest, bam, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know how to explain it, but and then Woody, it's more. I had Woody in there because of the collisions. You know, they're outstanding collisions, and everybody falls. And own team, different team, sticks are flying, and that's why I had him in there. Yeah, of course. You know, again, volume. Colton will be there. And again, LOC more for, I've seen him hit a couple guys, and I was like, you know what? Let's give him a little prop. I didn't put him on the podium for skating, so I slid LOC in there, even though he's a DU alum in there.
I do like, Cale Makar in hitting is like somebody who isn't very profane but drops an F-bomb, and everyone around is like, oh. And it just carries more weight when they do it.
Gets real all of a sudden, yeah.
That's Cale Makar in hitting. It's very tactful in when he chooses to be that type of player.
Yeah.
I'm sure a couple of reverse hits come to mind with Cale Makar. And
Yep.
and some of the trouble he's even gotten into at the blue line, I think, has forced him to even reevaluate that, which I never thought was an issue, and he was being unfairly penalized. But
I agree.
Either way, I think Cale Makar does still belong in this conversation, just in a slightly different way from Manson, who rightfully took the gold in this category. He is just a violent hitter, and it is hard to dispute that.
So maybe that's the difference. We have Josh Manson and Cale Makar are hitters. Miles Wood just kind of creates car crashes. Yes.
He's the fender bender.
Yeah, there you go.
It's regular, and it's causing damage.
I love it. I'm in for fender bender Miles Wood.
Yeah.
Next category is one that I'll be honest. If you included other teams, the Avs wouldn't be anywhere near the podium in this category. But fighting, we weren't super spread out on the options here. Both Eric and I had a third place vote for Ross Colton, who ended up not making the podium. And I don't know that Ross Colton is that good of a fighter, to be honest, so I understand it. Just that Colton has that willingness to, if he needs to stand up for somebody, if he needs to throw some gloves, he will. I don't know that he'll win the fight, but he'll get into it. He's willing to mix it up. Our actual podium has Logan O'Connor with the bronze, Miles Wood with the silver, and once again, Josh Manson with the gold. Manson, certainly a better fighter than someone like Ross Colton. I still don't know that he's a great fighter, but he's kind of just the best one the Avs have. So that is what it is. The other two, I don't know. You guys sell me on Miles Wood and Logan O'Connor fighting.
Alyssa in chat said Landy, and I'm feeling a lot of regret over our podium.
If I had faith that Landy would be healthy, I would have put Landy in the top three for sure.
I didn't think of it. He would have belonged on this podium.
Yep, agreed. So,
Josh is a class of its own. His dad was tough as nails too. Holy cannoli. Dave Manson, woof. Landy. I didn't put him in there just because didn't want to flare the tempers. You know what I mean? Have some hopes. I'm leaving that one alone. But yeah, he absolutely would be in there if he'd been playing, obviously. And then LOC, me, it's more for, right, going in Seattle and, you know what I mean, like Eberle and, that kind of stuff. I think it's, that kind of set the tone there for the start of the season and things like that. And then you're right. It's like Colton, it's the willingness, right? The word is willingness. And And when you're willing to do that, to step up for your teammates, then right away you've won. It doesn't matter if you get your ass kicked, you've won. You know what I mean? Because towards your teammates and towards everybody, you're there and you're part of it. And again, nobody likes fighting. There's no way. I mean, I'm telling you, nobody likes it. And it is what it is. But, yeah, I mean, that was an easy category. I think Josh takes the nod there by far. Easily.
I'm laughing at AJ's comment.
Yeah.
Colton is a ride or die homie. He might die. What became the difference maker for me, I quite literally just pulled up hockey fights, because for all three of these players of Colton, Wood, and O'Connor, it's like, I'm not sure how many fights they've really been in
Sure.
totality. Wood actually has been in the most of all of them. And I relied on the voting of the people on hockey fights
There you go.
to help me decide as well. But across the board, Miles Wood came across with higher averages in his fights than the others. Logan O'Connor also had the edge over Colton just in terms of the outcome of his fights.
That I believe for sure.
And you know, to Eric's point about how he answered for the Cogliano funny business of the Seattle series in the next season, I think just added a little extra for that vote, in my opinion.
I'm good with all of those arguments. I do want to go off the podium a little bit for these last two categories of hitting and fighting. Can we give out the Short King Award for hitting and fighting people under 5'9"?
This is Gerard.
Sam Gerard, come on, he deserves his own reward for the little guys out there.
I like it because he deserved a better fate in the speed. In my opinion, he's in like the 94th percentile. Okay,
Pretty
he's
good.
fast
Pretty
and
good.
spinny. And he also deserves the Short King Award.
How many bonus points does he get for spinning?
Yeah, we need a spinning award.
all the auxiliary awards go to Sam Gerard. Got it.
He's like a little stick of dynamite. He is. Like, he just goes, you know? You know what I mean? And I love it. I love it.
He's fun to watch.
He looks
That's
like,
for sure.
He looks like Johnny Depp sometimes. And what's his name there in the movie? Pirate of the Caribbean. You know?
Yeah. Jack Sparrow.
Jack Sparrow.
I'm not touching that one. Not doing that. Okay. We have two more categories here, and then we'll just have some fun with some other stuff. Next category up is shot blocking. This one had a decent range of votes, I would say. I guess there's not that many mix-ups. The only one that didn't make the podium that got a vote was Logan O'Connor. And I understand, you know, the two of you probably went more direct with who was actually blocking the most shots. The O'Connor thing for me isn't necessarily the shot blocking, but again, just that willingness of he will absolutely give up the body for the team no matter what, whatever the situation is. He's willing to get in there, even if the actual shot blocking is just okay. For the podium itself, the bronze medal ended up going to Sam Gerard, the silver medal to Javon Taves, and the gold medal to, once again, Josh Manson. All three, Steven Gerard, he's a soccer player.
It's his
When
twin.
did-
Definitely. It was definitely Yaya.
You can tell soccer is on Yaya's mind.
Steven, our man finally gets
Yeah,
on the
right.
podium.
Can't even get
and
his
he
name
doesn't
right.
even get his name right. Oh, Sammy.
Tough day for Sam Gerard on the DNVR podcast. I don't think the first two are certainly any surprise. Again, Manson's game, this fits in with the hitting, the defensive play. Devon Taves, to be honest, he's kind of a weird one on me because he does block a lot of shots, but Taves also blocks more passes, really, than shots, right? It's preventing shots in the first place.
He's got such a good defensive stick that he is able to just, with his stick, deny people the lane.
Yep.
I mean, having a good stick is so important. It's, you know, he defines that expression, right? He is. And then Manson is, just willing to put his body on the line anyway, all the time. So, but Sammy does the same too. You know, I mean, the more you're going to play on the PK, and Sammy's become one of those great PK guys too. And the more you're going to play on the PK, the more you're going to block shots, because if you don't block shots, you can't play on the PK. It's very simple.
True
Coaches
enough.
won't
A good
put you out
point.
there. I mean, that's like, they're not going to put you out there. So, and it's funny in youth hockey as you're learning to, like feel pucks and, you know what I mean? Like, hitting you and stuff. Like, it's funny how guys will just kind of, they'll just go out of the way to go to the point, and it's like, buddy, like you don't have to pretend that you're going out of the way to be out of the shooting lane. Get in the shooting lane and get through it. And 90% of the time, they won't shoot. You know what I mean? Because you're in the shooting lane. So I used to argue with Joe all the time, Zach. He'd be like, "Oh, you block shots." Like I used to block shots laying down. You don't see that a lot anymore. You know what I mean? But we used to do that a lot back in my era. You know, go up to your point and then lay down and slide. And Mike Keane was great at it, and Guy Carbonneau, and anyway. And Zach would be like, "Oh, you block shots. Like I can't even give you props because that means you're out of position." And I'd be like, "Oh my God, okay, fair, whatever." But you're right. Guys like Joe, guys like Tay, they have good sticks, and they're all, they have good skating ability. And sometimes your stick is just that important. Then you don't have to block it with your body.
I don't know. I'm sure I gave Gerard the nod here. I don't remember how I voted, but I'm pretty sure it was me.
He had a very high number of block shots. I can't remember exactly.
And where I want to come to his defense and why I felt he deserved to be on this podium as well is because he missed some time. So his overall block shots is going to come in lower, but his block shots per 60 is the highest among defensemen. And I think a lot of this is the credit he deserves on the penalty kill. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think he stepped up in a big way and was really sacrificial in those moments. And I just wanted to give him some recognition. Obviously, the big guys at the top deserve to be at the top for a reason, but I think Gerard took such strides in becoming a good and solid penalty killer. Block shots came with that territory.
And I will say this is an interesting category because it's going to vary from team to team, and maybe more specifically, it's going to vary from goalie to goalie. Some goalies want their defensemen coming out and trying to block certain shots. Some goalies want certain shots where they can see them all the way in. So it's kind of a weird stat in the sense of it's going to depend on what your role is, what team you're on, and what the situation is on whether you block a lot of shots. That's why I love both of you guys mentioning the PK, where you just have to do it on the penalty kill. There's no doubt about that. So a variable stat, we'll put it that way.
I'll add one more to it too, and then when I was playing with the Avs, Patty Waugh. I played a lot of defensive zone face-offs or whatever. You know what I mean? I just did, not in the offensive zone, but defensive zone. And then Patty used to look at me, tap me in the butt, with a stick, and be like, "You got bottom, I got top." And I'd be like, "Yeah, I understood what that meant. It meant like you go up to your point, I'm laying down on the ground, and I'm taking the bottom," and then gave him a better opportunity to look above it. So he went above it. Then he had the above, he had the top, I had the bottom, and it was every face-off. Every face-off together. It'd be like, "You got bottom, I got top." Perfect, we got it. So you're right. It depends on your goalie, what they like, And some goalies are like, "Get the hell out of the way." You know what I mean? Like, I got it, right?
Yep.
And so it's a fine art. You got to be in the right spot.
Fine art, Shakespeare, Picasso. Eric's really high class today.
Van Gogh is coming.
For the pest.
Yeah. Our last category is, I called it pestering, but who is the biggest pest on the Colorado Avalanche? We had a couple of different votes here, but ultimately Ross Colton, Miles Wood, and Logan O'Connor made the podium. We also had some votes for Josh Manson, I think. I don't really have any argument with any of these pests. They're all guys that are willing to get up in there, especially after the whistle, and cause some nonsense. Let me ask you this, Eric. As a guy who's played in the bottom six, as a guy who's been around the league and seen what the difference is between maybe an AHLer and an NHLer, does being a pest make the difference? Can that get you an NHL job if you're close?
Yes, and I'll tell you why. You got to do something to differentiate yourself to be in the lineup, right? And if you look at those three guys, 1, 2, and 3, that's why they were so awesome together last year. That's why they brought momentum. That's why they put the Avs on their back a few times last year, to get momentum, to get going. And obviously after that, injuries took their toll, and and they were never together again. But hopefully this is what they can bring this year, and it does matter. And I used to tell when I was working in development with the Avs, and you get a kid that's like you're trying to explain to him that he's going to have to figure out a path to the NHL and stay in the NHL. And yes, you were a prolific scorer in juniors. Great, good for you. You won't be in this league because you're not going to fit in that top 6. So in order to be in that bottom 6, you have to figure out no better than friend of the show, Corby, right? Rene Corbett. Unbelievable. 170 points, 150 points in juniors, and then next thing you know, you're a mucker, freaking Miles Wood type guy out there, right? And it's like, what are you talking about? This guy got 170 points last year. Yeah, he did. So you have to figure it out in order to stay. I used to tell guys in development all the time, like, it's fun to be on the power play and to get the one-timer, and it's all good, you know what I mean? But it's not fun. It's not fun to be on the bottom 6 and to have confrontations. It's not about fighting, and I say it all the time, not fighting. But if you don't run into anything, you're not going to piss anyone off. No one's going to freaking do anything. But if you run into things and you finish your checks and you're in the way and you're intense whistle to whistle, there will be confrontation. It's just life. It's just the way it is. And in order to stick around that league, you have to be able to, and those 3 are perfect, perfect choices to answer your question and to be on the podium about. It is not freaking fun, and it's not easy. And sometimes you just don't feel like it, and then you just want to be that little goal scorer, like, oh, good, you know what I mean? But it doesn't exist. It doesn't work that way, and some guys get it, some guys don't, but it's a big, big difference between top 6 and bottom 6.
For AJ's comment there about Georgiev, I don't know. I think it might be the opposite. If you don't let him shoot from the point, if you block all the shots from the point, then Georgiev can't miss them. Just saying.
Hey, I'm just telling you, you guys are laughing right now. I'm going to change subject again, but I don't remember the name. I'm not hiding the name. One of our goalies in the AV system, like, I'm not hiding it. I'll try to find out, is we figured out that the guy needed glasses. He couldn't see freaking pucks from the point. And then we figured it out. Like, after like a year and a half, we have to go get him some freaking contact lenses. And he couldn't see it. And we're like, why is this guy shitty from the point? You know what I mean? He can't see the puck. He couldn't see it. He literally couldn't see it. You know what I mean? He needed freaking glasses.
That's a tough position to need glasses.
Yeah. AJ's raging on chat today. I love it.
Anyway, those were the 7 categories we had official medals for. I think Cale Makar and Josh Manson tied for most.
Cale, Josh, and
That's
Miles.
hilarious.
There you go.
Yep.
So that eclectic group of skills, all right? I didn't want to just go with all skill categories. We did not go with any goalie stuff because I feel like that's pretty straightforward.
That's tricky.
How do you
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
the starter, the backup,
Yeah,
and
right.
then the Eagles goalie?
Yeah,
1, 2, 3.
I don't know. Didn't make the Avolympics this year. Maybe next time for the goalie stuff.
Do we have 60 seconds to make an appeal on any one of them?
Yeah, appeal whatever you want.
I'm kidding.
Overruled.
No, I was kidding about that gymnast.
No,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
Oh.
Shit, I feel so bad.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
God.
take the bronze back from
Yep.
Miles
terrible.
Wood in the speed. I'm just kidding. He's fine.
As we all know, all judge sports are terrible and awful in every way, and judge sports should die.
Die?
Just the judging part, all right? I just want.
Okay, I got you.
I love plenty of judge sports. I just want more transparent grading systems instead of watching someone do a dive and having they look identical to me and one gets 8s and one gets 10s. I don't know. I don't know anything about judging sports. Anyway, a little bit of a fun show for the Avs today. Beyond this, I am curious. When you look at some of the lists today, you see Manson, you see Miles Wood get all these medals. We talked a lot about maybe Gerard and LOC on the fringes of some of these podiums. Do you think there's anyone that their skills of these kind of categories gets underrated in Colorado? Someone that we've overlooked, and I don't. This is not a loaded question. It sounds like it is. It's not. I'm genuinely asking. Do you think there's someone that maybe people overlook in Colorado for some of these categories?
Thinking here.
Yeah, it's not meant to be an easy question. That's for sure.
No, I know. How about we go like this? if I understood the question right, like, what about like a guy like Arturi Lehkonen? You know what I mean? And that would be for me like the version of your Selke winner. You know what I mean? For the Avalanche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, so it's
Defensive
it gets
forward
overlooked a lot.
style, yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Gets overlooked a lot. Like, you know why he gets overlooked? Because he's so freaking consistent that you just like, you know what you're going to get. So it's easy to overlook him because it's not even a subject of conversation, you know, and which is a good thing, which is a great thing. You know, so you want I've always said, like, he's the guy that you should make a tape of, and you're trying to mold players right now, like, how to play. You just do what this guy does. You're going to play. You'll be fine.
When you're fifth or sixth in every conversation, you're not really talked about in the podium, but when you're fifth or sixth in every conversation, that makes a pretty good player.
Yeah, some kind of well-rounded award.
Yep. So, I don't know
Mr.
what we'd call the well-rounded Mr. Everything. They've sold. Just call it
Done.
Good Stick Lecky.
Mr.
The Good Stick Lecky
Everything.
Award.
Goes to Lehkonen.
There we go. Love it. Also, can't really give out medals for the coaching, but to be honest, in my opinion, and maybe we're biased here for the Avs, I think Bednar's in contention for the podium of the league-wide head coaching standings. So,
Do you think if... Sorry, go ahead, Megan.
I was going to say, in the same way we had layers for some of these awards,
Yeah.
I think Jack Adams doesn't encompass the way that we should be talking
For
about
sure.
coaching. I think there either needs to be another award for coaching, but there are excellent coaches left out of the conversation, and I think that Bednar's probably never going to win a Jack Adams, but belongs in the conversation of among best coaches in the league.
agreed.
And I
Jack-
hate the fact. I hate the fact that the other day, Crow, right, Mark Crawford, our guest, like, won the Jack Adams with the Nordiques. Obviously, that became the Avalanche. But it's funny. What was his line? He's like, "Oh, you know, it's very hard. You know, I can't go Forsberg, Sack, I can go Forsberg." He was making fun of himself a little bit. You know, like downplaying his coaching abilities. But at the end of the day, that's what I hate when I hear that about Bednar. Oh, he's got MacKinnon, Rantanen, and Makar. Like, buddy, you gotta be able to have a recipe with those ingredients. And again, Crow deserved that Jack Adams bag. That's not what I'm saying, but it's absurd that Jared Bednar has never really been in contention or has never won it. I think it's absurd.
I mean, what the phrase I always hear is, as a coach, your decisions will lose more games than win games. So a lot of the time, you want to be a good coach, just don't fuck it up. That's all you got to do. Sometimes it's not that hard. I don't know. Coaching in the NHL is weird. Like Megan said, the Jack Adams is almost more of a best rebound season type of award than it is the best coaching award.
Which, you
so.
know, I like that. That deserves
For
recognition.
sure.
But it's leaving out then, because where Bednar saw the most improvement was over the span of several seasons,
Yep.
bringing the team from the 48-point year to a cup in 2022. And it's hard to, in a singular season award, capture that
For
kind
sure.
of accomplishment.
Lifetime coaching award.
And if it doesn't work, coaching doesn't work, you know, what do you do? What do? You just blame the goalie. That's it. Blame the goalie. Blame the goalie. That's it.
You would know. You and
As
you
a
and
forward, as a forward, as a dad, yeah, it's the toughest thing. But as a forward, you blame the D, and as a D, you always blame the goalie. You know, it goes backwards. You know.
Yeah, until you get shut out, and then it's the forward's fault. So
Yeah,
Is
that's it.
it all comes full circle.
It's Bednar Picasso. You
He's painting the picture. I'm in.
He's
I'm
painting
in.
a picture, and if you don't like it, you don't understand art.
Sold.
Yes, there you go.
We need a Bednar Picasso style shirt of his, like, I don't even know what his style is called. I can't do it. I'm not a high class person. We do have to wrap up today's show, though. Thank you for hanging out with us in the middle of August. We're back tomorrow with a cool interview, probably talking more goalie stuff. Peter Budaj, formerly of the Avs, now an NHL goalie coach, will be joining us. So look forward to that, and we will talk to you all in the next one.
We all silly like the mayor.